Chapter 9. It's a boy! Genesis 21 to 22. God has a funny way of making good on his promises. Not funny ha-ha, but funny like, I never thought that was going to work. And yet, when they're God's promises, they always work. Abraham and Sarah finally had their baby. Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90. Not exactly spring chickens or even fall chickens, more like late December chickens. But the baby had come all the same. They named their son Isaac, which means he laughs, because the little boy was the occasion for lots of chuckles. Abraham laughed at God's promises, not good. People laughed at Sarah for being so old, not very nice. And Sarah laughed that she finally had some diapers to change, not as bad as it sounds. After all those years, the father of many nations had a son of his own, just like God promised, right on time, at least according to God's watch. You might have thought that after all this waiting for a child, God would have ordered Isaac to be hidden in a cave somewhere and placed in bubble wrap. But God told Abraham to do something much harder, a bazillion times harder. One day, when Isaac was still a boy, or maybe a young man, God told Abraham to take his beloved son and sacrifice him on a mountain. Although this was probably the saddest, scariest thing God could have said to a father, Abraham was a man of faith, and so he was willing to do as God said. So Abraham gave Isaac some wood to carry, and the two of them set off for the mountains. Abraham had learned to take God at his word. If God's plan was to see the promised child killed, then Abraham figured God must have another plan to raise him from the dead. Which is what God did, more or less. Just as Abraham was ready to lay a hand on his son, God said, "Don't do it, Abraham. I see that you love me and trust me and believe me." And God provided a ram instead. Amazing story, isn't it? Even more amazing is that hundreds of years later, God would send his own son to the mountain. But this time, there would be no ram to save the day, just a beloved son carrying the wood on his back to die for a people who didn't seem to love God or trust him at all.